so much ink. Hello everybody, FunReviews here, and today I think you've already guessed what I'll be reviewing. Today I'll be reviewing the indie sensational hit survival horror cartoon game Bendy and the Ink Machine. So, let's not waste any time, let's jump right into the story with Bendy and the Ink Machine, Chapter 1. So, the story for Bendy and the Ink Machine follows our main character Henry as he enters his old workshop and finds something's amiss. It's much larger than when he left, with ink dripping from the walls in a beautiful, stunning display. We also find that we can't leave as we raise the ink machine, which, as I'm led to understand, there was a major graphical update for Bendy Chapter 4's release and the release on consoles, so I haven't had a chance to play how it looked in its original state, but apparently the new one's much more epic and grandiose than its predecessor. And also, we find, after creating a ritual and seeing a ripped up Boris with his ribcage pulled open and just a wrench shoved in there, which was a really gruesome display, and Bendy cut out, appearing and disappearing at will, and also moving themselves around corners in, frankly, terrifying display. We find Ink Bendy, or as he's known, the Ink Demon, as he chases us down with his inky mush appearing across the corridors, and we fall deeper into the studio. And as we get to explore, we find that people are trapped inside the characters they form, like Alex Angel and Boris the Wolf, who there's two of each to avoid spoilers here. But it's really interesting, just the story alone is really interesting, and it lends itself well to theory and trying to figure out what's happened and how the story plays into everything. It's so fascinating just to explore the workshop. I spent hours just wandering around until Bendy showed up and ripped my face off.
Oh my god. Joey,
But
what were you doing?
Bendy himself is such an interesting character despite not saying a word. And all the characters are so deep and interesting. And even Henry, our main protagonist, is just thrusted into this world and we learn along with him. And it's quite just interesting in a word. But that's all for the story, let's move on to the presentation. So, the presentation. I really didn't have that much of a high expectation for Bendy and the Ink Machine due to it being developed by an indie studio. Like, again with Five Nights at Freddy's, they focus more on the story than the graphical presentation, with it only receiving a graphical update much later on to improve the graphics and textures. However, when I got a chance to play through the game in this graphical overhaul, I found myself just awestrucken by how they could make the game so much more visually realistic, but they choose not to keep with the cartoony style, lending itself beautifully to the old 30s Disney cartoons of old. And it's so much fun just seeing it, and it's also so gruesome with these puddles of ink lying around that you wonder, is that just ink from the ink machine or is that blood? Because everything in this world is made of ink, everything. Even the creatures are made of ink. So you wonder, as you see ink dripping from the walls, was that someone who'd been murdered? Or is that just a puddle of ink? It really makes you wonder. And all the character designs are so unique, from Bendy himself to Sammy to Alice, both of them, to Boris, to Tom, to Beast Bendy. They're all so different, but at the same time so similar. It really makes you think, yeah, this could have been a cartoon series growing up. It's so much fun just to see all the different characters, and that's why the archives, after you complete Chapter 5, allow you to explore and see all the different character models. It's so fun just to explore. And the environments are so unique and interesting. Everything is so different to what you saw before. And yes, while Chapter 3 is very fetch questy and frankly quite boring, which, yeah, but it makes up for itself just by getting to explore everything and seeing the world itself. It's so much fun just to experience Bendy and the Ink Machine as well as play it. But that's all for the story, let's move on to the gameplay. Now, the gameplay. The gameplay for Bendy and the Ink Machine is frankly its least interesting point. It's a standard hack and slash first person shooter-ish survival horror. You take on the whole role through Henry's eyes, just exploring the different areas and solving puzzles, which the puzzles are frankly quite annoying. I'm not gonna lie, they're very tedious and annoying, but again, experiencing the world makes up for it, makes you want to do the tedious puzzles. But other than that, that's really all I've got to say for the gameplay, except for the hidey holes, as I've learned to call them. Throughout the game, Bendy will come and hunt you across the levels, and once he spots you, he will not stop chasing you. You can run from one end of the level to the other and he will still find you, which is terrifying. It's almost as scary as the alien from Alien Isolation, because you never know where he's going to turn up or where he's going to appear, or if he'll just appear out of nowhere and rip your face off. Unless you get to one of these hidey holes. If you get to one of the hidey holes, he can't find you for some reason. I don't know why, but he can't see you or find you. And it's a really interesting point in the gameplay, in the story, where you're running away from the projectionist, who's one of the villains in the game, and you run into a hidey hole, and he spots you, and he knows you're there, but then Bendy comes up and saves you. Still, he knows you're there, but he chooses to leave you alone. I'm not sure why that is, but I'll leave that up to theories. But it's still so much fun, just playing through the game, exploring the levels. And in Chapter 5, there's an absolutely terrifying, suspenseful moment where you're on a boat and there's this giant Boris hand chasing after you through a sea of ink, and it's so creepy and so terrifying. And that's all for the story. Let's move on to the final level. So, the final level for Bendy and the Ink Machine is, frankly, it's so much fun. It's a bit frustrating, but fun. Because that's what Bendy is. It can get frustrating, but it never compromises on the fun factor of the game. It's so interesting. Now, we end Chapter 4 with Alice, after he transforms Boris into Brute Boris and you're forced to kill him, which feels, I had feels. And it makes you really think, oh my god, there's two Alices, because there's two voice actresses for Alice. One's good and one's bad. But we find out that there's a second ink machine, a much larger one than the one we saw in Chapter 1. And that's where Bendy's lair is. And everyone thinks that the main ink machine's where Bendy came from, but it turns out it was the key to his cell. And when we rose it, the ink machine, at the beginning of Chapter 4, we released the ink demon once and for all. And we end by, we've got to show Bendy the end of his story to end the game. But Ink Bendy's having none of that, as he transforms into Beast Bendy and hurls you across into this room where ink's pouring, but at the same time they're forming lost ones, as the fans grown to call them. But he's charging at you and you've got to flick levers to get into the next section. Then you've got to force him to break ink tubes and get back to the main chamber where you show him the end, and the whole world is destroyed and you're released. Except it's just a replay of the beginning of the game, except instead of Henry getting a letter, we actually see Joey Drew for good, and he says, come back to the old workshop, and then you just replay the game. And it's led fans to believe that Henry is dead in some kind of purgatory, being forced to relive his time at Joey Drew Studios, with the different employees take on the different various forms of the characters. For example, Susie something became Alice, and someone else became Boris, and people believe, I'll leave a link to the theory channel in the description, this theorist believes that Ink Bendy is actually an incarnation of Joey Drew hunting Henry down. And it's really interesting to see this, because it makes the story so much more deeper, because I don't even think that the creators, Joey Drew Studios, yes, they changed their name to that company, really could have believed how big their small little indie game could have becoming a hit franchise with merchandise, hell, even pop vinyls being released. And it's so much fun just to see how this little indie company has grown into something huge. And I just hope with Bendy and the Ink Machine 2, if it ever comes out, that it meets the hype that the fans have built up for it. And I truly, truly hope that Joey Drew Studios can return one day with a sequel to Bendy and the Ink Machine. And that's why I'm going to give Bendy and the Ink Machine a final rating of a full 10 out of 10. It's an amazing game with an interesting story, amazingly detailed presentation, fun yet frustrating gameplay, and just an overall engaging story that never ceases to amaze any player. And that's why I highly recommend you go out and pick it up. It's been released on all console platforms, PC, Xbox One, PS4 and Nintendo Switch. So I highly recommend you go out and pick it up and support this indie developer, because unlike Five Nights at Freddy's has become such a conglomerate, it's lost its fame. Bendy and the Machine has the story, has the game plan, has the presentation to back it up. And that's why I truly hope that it receives a sequel. But thank you guys for watching this new episode of Fun Reviews. There's going to be definitely more coming in the future in this new format with, now I have studio lights. Yes, thank God. No more annoying shadows back here. And I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. Hey guys, here's a little after message for you. Don't get used to these, this is just a one-off thing because this is the first proper episode of Fun Reviews Season 5. The review on Doctor Who Resolution was not the proper first episode, it's just because I had to get that review out, and because it's Doctor Who that always breaks in a new series, you know, has to be that. And I'm sorry that that video wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I did want to do a big epic thing, but I just didn't have the time. So, this is the first proper review of Fun Review Season 5, and I just want to thank you guys for supporting me throughout these 5 years I've been on YouTube. Yeah, it seems like only yesterday I was that little kid who was screaming about Five Nights at Freddy's, and to my genuine shock, that video has received over 1,000 views. I cannot believe it. 1,000. And that video is what shot me up. I've somehow, seemingly overnight, got to 100 subscribers, and unfortunately things have slowed down a little bit, but I'm still making videos, I'm still doing my best to bring you content that I enjoy, and Doctor Who the fan film, it's happening, yes. I'm now officially confirming a release date. If you guys haven't seen the official teaser trailer yet, go and check it out, link in the description. But the official release date for Doctor Who the fan film, Series 1, is 2021. Yes, I know it's a long time, but we are putting a lot of effort into this fan film. We're throwing everything we've got at it. And I'm so excited to show you guys what's happening. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. What? Are we rolling or something? Oh, it's an outro, right. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy it, click here to check out more of my videos. Click here to watch the current season of Fun Reviews, and click here to check out the complete series. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.